What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Heel Report, part of Tar Heel 24/7, and another edition of our Daily Drop podcast. I'm Riken Fuller. Alongside me is Noah Weisskopf, and today we're going to talk a lot about the Jordan Shipp press conference from Saturday night after the loss at Wake Forest. If you haven't checked it out, yet, pause this video, go check it out, go watch it, come back. We're going to go in depth about what that pressure meant, because it was probably the most straightforward of a press conference that we've had from a player or a coach this entire season. And you could sort of just tell from the way he was responding to a lot of questions, there's a lot of disappointment with how that game went on Saturday night after the 2-game winning streak. And there was a lot of accountability mentioned, just about how he basically said that the offense has been playing bad and that it has not helped the defense. And he was giving the defense a whole lot of credit for what they've been able to do. And he was just basically taking a lot of accountability on behalf of the offense for some of the struggles. So let's kick it off, Noah. What did you get? Because you actually were in the room, and it's a different experience when you're in the room and you feel the vibe and you understand just the kind of everything around it. What did you get from that press conference, just your initial reactions?
I think there's a bunch of different ways you can take it and a bunch of different things that stick out to me. But first, I'll start by saying that it really felt like there was the first admittance of like him admitting that there's some panic going on, right? Like you can really sense the panic of saying, okay, there's only 2 games left in the season. Because earlier on in the year when the offense was struggling, it was still like midway through the season. There was still a lot of ACC left to play, ACC games. So there wasn't really by any coaches or players an admittance of like, we got to get this together now, because there's really not that much season left, right? Only a handful of games. And so now this was the first time after that Wake Forest loss that any player or coach had really sounded and had panic in their voice. And Jordan Shipp at certain points in that press conference really told us, like, guys, we've only got 2 games left. Like, our offense hasn't gotten it together really all year long. There's only 2 games left. Like, we got to figure this out right now, or else we're not going to make a bowl game. And he mentioned that. And that's really the first time, too, that any player or coach has looked further ahead than 1 game. Usually we've always, and everyone talks about the Bill Belichick statement, right? We're on to Wake Forest. Like, nobody in this program has ever talked multiple games out until Jordan Shipp. After that Wake Forest game, he mentioned the last 2 games and knowing what was at stake and knowing they have to win those games. So I thought that was the first thing that sort of stuck out to me, is that, okay, they're admitting now that they need to figure this out. Like right now, they can't worry about their opponents because they have so many internal inconsistencies offensively, especially. So that was the number one thing that stood out to me. Beyond that, I think the other thing was the story. He took us inside the locker room with his words and told us what he said to the defense and those things. And I think that is also sort of the admittance of like, we see what this defense is doing and we just can't match the production right now. And I think that Jordan and a lot of the other offensive players probably, but Jordan specifically, felt bad. He feels bad for the defense that they go out there every game and play their heart out. And for the most part, they've been really, really productive over the last month. And the offense just hasn't matched that. They've been inconsistent. There's been games they haven't moved the ball at all, which really was what we saw against Wake Forest. There's been moments where they had 47 yards in the first half against Stanford, and then they turned it up a little bit in the second half. But this past game against Wake Forest is probably one of the worst offensive games, or definitely is the worst offensive game that they've had probably all year. They didn't score a touchdown. All their points came off the right leg of Reese Veroff. So I think that Jordan Shipp's frustration and sort of panic and concern, it all came out in his roughly 7 or 8 minute press conference, just talking to us about, you know, the disappointment, I guess, really in a sense, that has stemmed from this entire season.
And just for some added context, Jordan Shipp is the unquestioned wide receiver 1 for this team. He's leading the team in pretty much every single receiving metric, yards, receptions, touchdown receptions. So this guy is for better or worse, one of the top players of on the offense. Even though the stats aren't electric, but when you consider the offense as a whole, he's definitely a major factor in when they are doing good. He's usually involved pretty heavily. So and he's only a sophomore. So Jordan Shipp is taking this role as a spokesperson for the offense, and a reflection. Whatever he reflects in his press conferences is usually a good reflection of the offense as a whole, just in terms of when he's up, the offense is up. When he's down, the offense is probably down as well. One of the things that stood out to me from what he said, and I want to get your input on this, Noah. He made a quote. He said something like, one my bad from any single person on a play destroys the play, right? He said, because what he did, he never called anybody out in the offense, even though he was taking a lot of accountability on behalf of the offense. He never called out a specific player. He never said, X isn't doing this right, Y isn't doing this right, and the play breaks down. He says, when a play breaks down, it can just be one person that comes up and says, my bad on the play. And he says, if you have 3 my bads a drive, that's at least 27 my bads a game, and that's 27 wasted plays. He's just saying there's just a couple of guys each play, maybe one guy per play that's just not exactly where they need to be, doing the right thing. Maybe they don't make the catch. Maybe the read is off, and just everything breaks down from there. There just seems to be a lack of overall cohesion and just the ability to execute in and out every given play from all 11 guys on the field. And he says, his coach told him, Coach Garrett McGee, wide receiver coach, said that, all 11 is one. One person's off, and all 11, everybody's off. So, I want you to kind of dive into that quote a little bit, Noah, and just what you get out of that quote from Jordan.
Well, we've heard similar sentiments throughout the season of those things, and it just hasn't. Again, that goes to consistency. That is what consistency is. Consistency is all 11 guys consistently making plays, making the right play on every play. So you look at the offensive line when you start a play, right? If one of the 5 guys on the offensive line has as Jordan described, my bad, if they mess up on a play, it allows a defender to get into the backfield, and then affects the quarterback, and then affects the receivers, and it affects everything. The play breaks down. Even if it's not an offensive lineman, if a running back makes the wrong read on a run, that's one my bad on a play, but then the play goes for -2 yards, right? Or something like that. If a receiver runs the wrong route, it's a my bad, right? If the receiver misses a block that could go for a run, say could go for 20 yards, a receiver misses a block and only goes for 3, it's a my bad. And this sounds very generic, but that's what makes football hard. That's what makes football not an easy game. And so you have to have all 11 guys on the field on the same page on every play. And obviously in no game, whether it's college, the NFL, there's never going to be a game where you go perfect, right? There's always going to be somebody, in Jordan's words, is having a my bad on a play. It's just limiting those my bads. And where does that come down? That comes down on the coaching staff. That comes down on players. It's both. And there's not really one thing you can blame for these my bads. It's just overall, they have to be better. That's really the only way to put it. You can't blame Bill Belichick for these offensive players going out there and not running with the game plan and running the play correctly. But maybe it needs to be installed better, right? Maybe it falls on Freddie because it needs to be installed better. So you can't blame it on one person, on one coach, on one player. It really is just a way they have to learn how to get through it. And they have to learn how to I think the biggest thing is not let them roll over. Once you have one mistake, you can't let it roll over. And the hardest part is that it's not one player that's making multiple mistakes. It's one player making a mistake on this play, the next play, another player, and then it just keeps going. So say 11 straight plays, it could be a different player making the mistake every play, which makes it that much harder. So they have to play as one. They have to just understand the game plan as best they can. And the coaches have to get these guys ready as best they can. But at this point in the season, they've got 2 games left. They have to go all in this week in practice to be able to win against Duke. And then from there, got to go all in yet again for a game against NC State. And then, if they win both, they get to a bowl game. So again, the my bad thing, I thought it was a really interesting way, an easy way that he brought it up. I think it's a really easy way for the average person to understand just the word my bad. Like, just one person messing up can ruin an entire play and thus can ruin a series. Like, it can just continue to spiral on. So I'm glad that he brought it up in that way. And I think it makes a lot of sense to everybody now, understanding sort of where the issue stemmed from, right? So, I mean, you even look offensively, they averaged 2.3 yards a carry for basically the second straight week. It was a little bit different against Stanford, but 2.3 yards a carry just isn't going to get it done. And the thing that sticks out the most to me, which I haven't even really talked about publicly in my writing yet, but on first down, it's ever since week 1, Bill Belichick has told us that they have to be productive on first down, because if you start behind the chains, it's a recipe for disaster offensively. Well, on first down against Wake Forest, they averaged 5.3 yards a play. So their average second down and distance was 2nd and 5, and yet they're 4 of 14 on third down. So you have to figure out where is this going wrong? Because 5.3 yards a play on first down is great for any team. If you can average 5 yards on first down and average yourself 2nd and 5, you have 2 plays really before fourth down to get 5 yards. If you can't get that, you don't deserve to win any games. And they haven't gotten it for the most part, and they haven't won any of these games that they've been in that situation, obviously outside of the 2-game win streak. But when you're averaging that and you can't score and you can't put points on the board, it's obviously a big issue. But yeah, going back to the Jordan Shipp, my bad thing, I think it really illustrates and paints a picture that we've all seen and understood over the course of the year for this offense.
And you use the word generic, which is great because just like you said, like this offense has been nothing more than generic, pedestrian, unexplosive. And there's a lot of, worse adjectives you can use, but for the sake of what we're saying, they haven't been explosive by any means. They haven't wowed anybody by any means. And when they do have production, it is getting some production on first down. It's 5 yards on first down. It's 3-yard run on second down, and then it's a 2-yard pickup on third down to keep the chains moving. It's nothing exciting. It's just their recipe, and their recipe was just faltered at Wake Forest, and Jordan Shipp knows that, and that's why in an offense like that where you're utilizing all 3 downs every time to get a first down, as soon as one of those 3 plays messes up, everything is just out. It's just done. Like your entire flow, your entire offense, your entire play calling is out. When Carolina scores on offensive drive, when they put the ball in the end zone, it is off drives that probably have 4 or 5 third down conversions. It's off drives where they might have some penalty help to get them down there. They're just so reliant on using all 3 downs in every set to pick up a first down, and they're not going to explode down the field. There were a couple of times that they were close against Wake Forest. They had a third down that was almost caught between the receiver's legs, but it hit the ground. It's just like, and it just feels like that's the universe saying, stick to the script, right? It's just like, It's so wild just to see that the offense break down in that way, and to see Wake Forest have so much success just keeping them hemmed in by just disrupting a single play per 3.
And here's the thing is that 12 play drives, 14 play drives, those things are incredibly hard to have. It's really impressive. And people sort of overlook this in the middle of a game. Even in the NFL, if you see your favorite NFL team go on a 12 play drive and takes up 6 minutes and all, like that is so impressive because there aren't those my bads, or if there is, they're able to overcome it. So the thing that helps offenses is explosive plays, the chunk plays that you pick up 35 yards on a run, you pick up 40 yards on a pass. Those are the things that move you down there and have and allow you to sort of look past those my bad plays because they skip 3 first down markers, what would have been, right? So there's that many less plays you have on a drive to go and score, and thus that many less times and opportunities for a player to mess up. So that's why chunk plays are so important. That's why explosive plays and a vertical passing game, all those things are so pivotal in an offense because you can avoid a lot of those and you can move the ball quicker down the field. And I don't want to sound like sort of explaining football in a dummy down way, but it's
like
true.
Elementary,
Like this is really what is going on in this offense. They don't have the vertical passing game. They don't have really the ability to have these chunk plays. So you're seeing an increase in these my bads because there's that many more plays on the field. If they could move and drop back, Geo back to throw, and he can complete a 50-yard pass downfield to Kobe Peso or Jordan Shipp or someone, then the offense is going to start moving, and they're going to start scoring touchdowns and points and all these different things, and things will come together. But they haven't had that offensively. And to have that, you have to consistently be able to move the chains first. That is the first step in any offense, and that's really what they need to focus on coming up now against Duke and then against NC State. And again, I don't mean to sound like this, but they have to just get first downs. Like you have to average, if you can average that 5 yards of play on first down and then move the ball and get another 5 yards on 2 plays, that's a first down. You can get to third down. It would be nice if you didn't have to, if you could get a first down on second down, but they have to just move the chains down the field. And then once you do that, plays will start to break. then the defense has the my bad situation, right? And if the defense has been on the field for 10 plays, then all of a sudden they're fatigued and they're exhausted from the drive, and then they start making my bads, and then the offense can capitalize on it. But right now they just have to focus on moving the chains. They can't think too far in advance. They can't think we need a touchdown. You just got to move the chains, got to get Gio where he's most comfortable, got to just pick up chunk plays, 5 to 6 yard plays on first and second down, and especially third down.
I just want to note as well, like when Carolina does have those touchdown drives, it's often 10 plus plays, like I was talking about, converting third downs. And when you convert a drive like that, that is impressive. And that is where a lot of the times you look at this offense and say, man, like that was a good drive, because they were consistent throughout and they didn't have those my bad plays like you're talking about. And maybe there was one chunk play in there, but a lot of the times it's not. And that's impressive when they can get it done, but it's just at the college level not very realistic to assume that is a recipe for success every single time you touch the ball, because it's college athletes. Some of these guys have little experience, or this is their first experience even at the Power 4 level, and there's just so much disparity between everything and ways of playing and the ways that programs go about their game plans and their systems, and just expecting to be able to have consistency from college players every single drive. Yeah, there's a degree where you want that to happen. These guys are looking to become pro athletes, but that level of consistency where everything has to be 3 downs it's just not very realistic in the college game, and especially for a team like Carolina that maybe doesn't have the firepower that an Ohio State has, or somebody one of the top 10 teams right now. It's just very hard for that brand of offense to see a lot of consistency past maybe 1 or 2 drives a game finding the end zone.
Yeah, I don't hate the Ohio State mention there, but
I had to throw it in there for you, Noah.
Yeah, the overall, Jordan Shipp admitted that a lot of these my bads, they're also called self-inflicted wounds. He used that term a lot. They're all self-inflicted. It's coming from them, and not to take anything away from the opposing defense. Wake Forest is talented. We knew that their defense would play a really good game against Carolina, but all these self-inflicted wounds, they pile up. And I thought it was interesting too. Jordan said, there's no more hiding from it. We've got to just admit that we have to look. He's used this term multiple times. We got to look at ourselves in the mirror and figure out what to do. And that's really the state of the offense. That's where they're at. They've got to just figure it out. There's not really any more you can sort of say about it. But I will say, just with Jordan stepping up there to speak to the media and talk to us in the way he did, sort of at the same, while wearing the emotion on his sleeve, like also being able to have a genuine conversation with us and really explain to us and take us behind the scenes on some of these things. It's really impressive. It really is. It says a lot about Jordan. It says a lot about the maturity that he has, that he leads with, that he plays with, all those kinds of things. And really, he's spoken to us after most losses. We've gotten Jordan quite a bit. He's a team captain. He's sort of, like you said, the spokesman for the team, the spokesman for the offense. Garrick McGee a couple weeks ago said when he was talking to us that if you just met Jordan, you would assume he's a 10-year NFL vet. This kid's a sophomore. So just the level of maturity that he has and go about with him, it's impressive. And he's a really, really interesting and talented player. At the beginning of the year, I think a lot of us thought that he would be a little bit different as a receiver than he is. A lot of us thought he could be like the take the top off the offense guy. I think now we see him more as like a 8 to 10 first down guy a game. Like he's just he's a really good possession guy. Not to say he can't go over the top, but he's a really, really valuable weapon for Gio as a safety blanket, is a term that likes to get thrown around a lot. But just to be able to pick up first downs, run over the middle of the field, be a smart player, that's where he's best. And I think he has a bright future, but at the same time, his leadership has really stood out to me a ton this year. And I think a lot of Carolina fans have gotten the same sense from watching him on the field, off the field, especially this past press conference, watching him and see how he talks and see how he manages himself, I think has been impressive.
We might have derailed a little bit talking about the offense a little bit in general, but it kind of ties back to the fact that, listen, Jordan Shipp is saying the onus is on us. It's on the offense. We've got to help the defense. And we've been talking about how the offense almost has to play a perfect game. You can't have the 1 my bad drive. You can't have the 3 my bad drive, whatever it is. You can't have it to play complimentary football. Jordan Shipp has made that very clear. He's put the standard out there, and it might be what he's been saying in the locker room all year long, but he finally, did it in a press conference after a big loss that you can tell was very disappointing to the team. So it was just very interesting to see that, and I'm glad we got the chance to talk about it because not often is a presser, especially from this football team, where a lot of the times we don't get too much from each presser. Is it worth talking a whole podcast about? But I think this was, because it's a very good reflection of the season, and it's a very good reflection of sort of the overall disappointment for where especially the offense is, and how much these guys still are invested in trying to fix it, even though we've talked about it. It seems like they're going to have to play almost perfect ball to find a way to make a bowl game this season.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it comes down to, right? It's what I said at the beginning. It's the admittance of panic in a sense. Like, we've got 2 games left. We don't have the luxury to keep telling people that we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. It's just we're getting used to each other. We're getting consistent, 70 new guys. I mean, this season's almost over. It's flew by, but this season's almost over. They've got 2 rivalry games. And the one thing I will say to give fans that are still listening a little bit of hope here is that rivalry games are so emotional for both teams that in a sense, the record doesn't really matter. It does, but it doesn't, right? So when you're going to play a game against Duke, it's a 1-game season. And for both of the teams, that's how they think of it. And I truly believe that that's how it is. So it's really any team can win these rivalry games because they're so emotional, because it carries such a different load than some of these other conference games or non-conference games do. It just means more. It means a lot more to these teams to want to win these games once they get there. So I'm not ruling out the fact that Carolina can't win either of these games, but I will say if the offense produces the way it did against Wake Forest, or even at parts of the season earlier, I don't see a way they can win. But that's not saying they can't. The defense, like Jordan Shipp emphasized, has been playing really well. They didn't have the best game against Wake Forest, but they still didn't, they still held Wake for most of the game. And then obviously we know what they did the previous, 3 or 4 games before that.
Yeah,
so we know what the defense has. You got to see the offense sort of complement them a little bit to give them a chance. But like I said, these rivalry games, anything can happen. They're emotional. Stuff just happens. And sometimes it brings out a different part of a team. So I'm excited to see how Carolina responds after what Jordan Shipp told us, how they go about the week, and see if we could see anything different on the field starting Saturday against Duke at Keenan.
And it is senior night, Jordan mentioned that playing for guys like Kobe Paysour, who are in his room, and just other guys that are getting their last chance to play at Keenan Stadium. So we'll see if that adds an extra level of just determination, and if they can go out there and just, because sometimes it's just really about the grit and going into a rivalry game and just really wanting it more. So we'll see how that all plays out. We're going to go ahead and get out here with this podcast. We thank you for tuning in and listening to me and Noah talk about this Jordan Shipp presser. We hope you got a chance to go watch it and came back and get a good sense of what we're talking about. And if you liked it, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube, hit that bell, and get alerted on daily content on the YouTube. Head over to the website, tarheel247.com. and check out some daily content there, and subscribe if you want access to premium stuff. And thank you again for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.